Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Fizban 5e, Dungeons and Dragons 5e, Fizban, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, the history of Dungeons and Dragons, the past, the present, the future of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, the past, the present, the future of Fizban. Let's get into it. All right, so spoilers for Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. There are spoilers in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. And I'm going to be talking about one today. All right, so you've been warned. All right, so let's talk about Fizban. All right, so who the heck is Fizban, right? So I'm so happy right now. There's a rhythm of joy in my life, right? I really have been impacted by this, 2020 March thing. I really just get this sense that the world is fundamentally different now, right? And it's harder for me to be connected to joy than in February of 2020, right? And in all the months of my life before that, because I just have all these alarms and these concerns that life is never going to go to back, and that within my lifetime, there's never going to be a better, I'm a Christian husband and a father, right? And I'm like, is milk going to be $8 in 6 months? I got genuine concerns, right? Now, I am a Christian, so it really isn't okay for me to worry. All this is in God's hands, but I got 4 kids, and I want the world to be better for them, and I got a beautiful wife, and I want the world to be better for her, and, so I just got real concerned, right? So, but boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, brand new 5e books are doing it. I put $50 down on the FLGS table, and I think I get $500 of joy back. It is such an incredible transaction, and I'm so loving Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Fantastic book, really, really good. By the way, somebody in my comments the other day said I talked a lot of smack about Wild Beyond the Witchlight before it came out, and then I was all up and happy with it the moment it came out. That is 100% true. I hated everything about Wild Beyond the Witch. I was like, I do not want a Feywild book, and I just talked all this smack about it. And then the minute I had it in my hands and I saw War Duke, I was like, we're done. This is the best book ever. And the more I read it, the more joyful I was that I owned the book. And I'm just on a beat. Like I have a rhythm in my life now that every 3 months, because Wizards of the Coast needs money to get back from the 2020 March disaster, right? And just like every other company on the planet, they're all struggling to get back on their feet. I get a brand new Dungeons and Dragons book, which is amazing, and I'm just loving every single one of them, and just really, 5e is a source of joy in my life. It's really nice. So Fizban is awesome. I'm really, really loving it. I'm loving magic items that steep in a dragon horde. Like, it's so crazy. The dragon gifts, which are these really cool gifts that you could just give player characters no matter what their class is, no matter what. It can go to any player character, and there's just so much awesome stuff in Fizban's. Right? So, but get this. I jumped in on Fizban, and I'm like, who is Fizban? I don't know who this dude is, right? And I don't really know the history of Fizban, right? So I have a couple ways to approach that, right? I can go to some jank Polygon article, and they'll kind of put everything together and say, here's what he was in this edition, and here's the first time he appeared, and blah, 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 right? But one of the things I think that a lot of people are starting to see is the internet is very helpful in some ways, but it makes a lot of things suck worse. We really haven't figured out how to use the internet fully yet. It's kind of a complicated subject, and kind of weird, but we really haven't fully. I don't think we've really fully figured out the internet yet. So and I'm like, nah, I'm not just gonna read some stupid Polygon article, right? The other thing I can go back and look at the older editions. I'm very fortunate to own a considerable number. I don't think anybody owns all the books from all editions. Like, it's, I don't even think that's possible anymore. It'd be outrageously expensive. But, I could explore my older books. But I don't think that's the solution. And the reason why is I don't know what books I would find them in, right? So what I decided to do is just encounter them in the present. Who is Fizban 5e, right? So I open up the book, and I'm like, okay, he's a wizard, and he has this this familiar, which is a parakeet, right? So he's a bog standard old white dude. He has a parakeet, and he's a wizard. That's what I know about him, right? And then he has that sense of humor, right? So from the comments that he puts on the text in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, I'm getting a sense of who he is, right? But right there in the Dragon Horde section, it talks about these magic items that they are more powerful based on whose horde they were in. So if they're in a Wormlings horde, they're one thing. If they're from an Ancient Dragons horde, they're from another. If they're from an adult dragon, they're from another. And if they're from a young dragon's horde, they're from another, right? They have literally four different types of power, 4 different layers of power for these items, right? Well, Fizban says, "Oh, I've had some adventurers put their magical items in my horde to steep, right? But I'm not comfortable with it. It makes me itch." And I was like, wait, what? Right? Because all the other entries in the book say Fizban is he's talking about, oh, I knew dragons that did this. I knew dragons that did that. I know a lot about dragons. But here he's saying, when an adventurer put their magic item in my horde. And I was like, wait a second. Your horde? Wizards don't have hordes. They don't sit on their gold like chickens waiting to hatch eggs the way dragons sit on gold, right? That ain't the way it happened, right? So I read it again, and I was like, holy crap. Like, Fizban is a dragon. So that's the spoiler. Fizban is a dragon, right? Which I'm like, wow, that's very cool, right? So this is a dragon, like, outing his homies. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. Not outing in a bad. Well, yeah, I guess this kind of would be a bad way because a lot of people come to slay dragons. So he is like an insider giving insider information, which is one of the reasons why it works, right? If this is just some dude like peeking around and going, oh, I noticed this about dragons and I noticed that about dragons, that would not be nearly as dope as a dragon who spends most of his time in the guise of a human being doing dragging it up, but really dealing with people as humans, because dragons can do that. Dragons can hide as humans and deal with humans directly. And so Fizban is not an old white dude wizard, right? Fizban 5e is a dragon. That's awesome. I love that. And I love that I'm reading through the book and I'm like, wait, is this wizard a dragon? Right? And so it was really nice. And I was wonderfully delighted to find this information. So just so you're aware, Fizban is a dragon. I didn't know this. Some of you may have known this. So that's my question. Did you already know Fizban was a dragon? How did you know? When did you find out Fizban was a dragon, right? Do you have a Fizban 1e story? Do you have a Fizban 2e story? Do you have a Fizban 3e story? Do you have a Fizban 4e story? My first encounter and the way I got to know Fizban was reading his comments in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons and discovering and like literally Sherlocking the mystery myself that Fizban was a dragon, right? Which was a delightful, surprise. So that was my encounter with Fizban. My first encounter with Fizban. What's your first encounter with Fizban? Because I know he's been in older versions of the game. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Fizban itself. I'd also love to hear any thoughts you have on Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. I am just loving it. It's so good. And, and the other thing is I'm just really in a real point of joy right now, right? Where I put my $50 down. Wizards of the Coast is dropping 250 pages of unbelievable art, really, really strong writing, staying attached to, saying, this is Dungeons & Dragons now, and very much saying, this is Dungeons & Dragons Gary Gygax, right? It's got those chromatic dragons that Gary established, right? Red, white, blue, green, black, right? It's got them all. They're all there. They still have the same breath weapons. And you can, Gary's legacy cries from the grave with every D&D 5e book. And it's wonderful to be getting the blessings of the D&D now and just, the blessings of D&D past. and and with each D&D book that I pick up, remembering and honoring and and putting the proper reverence, the proper deep respect on Gary Gygax, and I'm just telling you, when you buy a 5e book, you make sure that his legacy is never forgotten, because you make the company that contains his work now more valuable, stronger, and make it be able to hold off the ravages that this world brings. And if you're like, oh, Scott, D&D will be around forever, I want you to look right? And and over there you will see J.K. Rowling, who is absolutely gutting and absolutely if you had said a year ago that Harry Potter was in threat of even existing 20 years from now, people would have laughed. But she is not, but Dungeons and Dragons was broken off from Gary Gygax in 1986. I think it's the moment that Dungeons and Dragons approached legendary status, right? When it said, this is not one person's creation, right? It's easy for anybody to create something cool and make it cool during their lifetime, but to say, this is going to outlast me, right? That takes real courage, right? And J.K. Rowling is an anchor on Harry Potter right now. And I love Harry Potter, and that thing is dying quick. I was waiting for Hogwarts Legacy, like a $250 million game that was coming out on PS5. That thing has disappeared into ether. Nobody's even whispering about it now. So if you think that D&D doesn't need to be protected, you're wrong. If you got something you care about, you need to protect it, and you do that by supporting the current version of it. And every single purchase of a D&D 5e book helps Gary never be forgotten. And when you take your money and you put it elsewhere, it's not doing the same thing, in my opinion. Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think of Fizban's. Let me know what you think of the current 5e books. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a very wonderful millennium.